Welcome back to another episode of Light Beer, Dark Money. I'm Sean Noble.
And I am Chris Clements.
And we want to ask a favor to start off. Go on wherever you listen to us and rank us. Give us a little five-star,
give us 5-star, thumbs up, anything you can do.
Like, follow.
Yes.
Whether it's the socials, whatever, wherever you listen to us.
And those of you who have been listening to us for a very long time, we want to take the opportunity to thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we've got quite a few listeners out there.
We do.
And we're really grateful. We're really thankful. We ended the year really strong, and we have great things planned ahead.
Well, we're kicking off the year pretty strong too.
Yeah,
I feel good about this.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because you were out of town. No, I'm kidding.
I was on the USS Disney Pukazoid, or the Barfarama.
So
yeah, the norovirus hit the Disney Dream cruise pretty hard.
Oh,
it struck our cabin evening number 2.
Ooh.
Stayed with us through evening 3. I never saw land.
Oh, you didn't get to see land?
So we docked at Grand Cayman, and my son got sick the night before, and he was still sick when we docked, and you had to be downstairs by like 8, 9 o'clock, and he wasn't going anywhere. So I'm like, okay, I'll hang out with him. You guys go ashore. That was fine. And then the next night, they had these little bunk beds in the
right.
cabin, and Campbell had tricked out her little bunk bed, and then about 3 o'clock, we hear this, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. And so she's up in her bunk bed, and we bring her in our bed, and we get a bucket, and about 30 minutes later.
So
it was.
Did it stop at the Disney has its own island, right?
Oh, that was the other thing. So we're kind of contained both days when they got sick. When Preston got sick, it was at Grand Cayman, so I never got to see land. And then we're heading towards the island, right? And they couldn't dock on the island. It was too windy.
Oh. And
they couldn't reach the dock. They made 2 or 3 attempts. And apparently they're building a new dock on like the northwest side, because this dock is southeast, which is more on the Atlantic side. So I never got to see land.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I guess you'll have to do another cruise.
No, but even in a situation like that, you got to look at the bright side. So the people who serve on that ship are some of the most dedicated people I think I've ever met. I mean, they are so nice, and they're all from all over the world.
Yeah.
And of course, a lot of them are from very impoverished parts of the world.
Right.
And so this is beyond their wildest dreams. So the servers we had our whole trip, we had them for dinners and lunches and whatever. One was from India, and they work 5 months, they get 2 months off, and then another 5 months. And they're working 12, 14, 15, 16 hours a day.
Wow.
I mean, they've got to be up there. First breakfast service at 7. They don't end dinner till 10, 10:30.
Good night.
And yet they're so humble and so gracious, and even our cabin captain, who was helping us clean up after all this stuff, and I was on point for most of that. He could not have been nicer and sweeter and more gracious.
That's awesome.
And to their credit, I mean, Disney, the ships are clean. I mean, there's not garbage sitting around.
Right.
They're clean. I mean, norovirus is a thing on cruise ships, unfortunately, during the winters. It's a thing right now in our community.
Right.
It's going everywhere. So what are you going to do?
Yep.
But and on that day when we couldn't dock, I just looked around and said, well, there are worse places to be.
Yeah.
There's a lot worse places to be. I'm going to go get another cup of coffee, or, go have another free ice cream, or go work out. I worked out every day. They had a really nice gym that was crowded the first day. There was nobody there. Yeah. So it was good. I mean, right. I don't think I will be going back anytime soon.
Okay. Well, I'd like to do it at some point. Kids are still a little young. So.
But your podcast last week, without yours truly, was really, really great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten some feedback. I think that we probably ought to make that theme a regular reoccurrence as we update it, because there's some things I have further thoughts.
You have further thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's one thing to talk about it, to offer the opinion, some perspective, but I think that there's some action that needs to.
I think the whole premise what you started off with, which was, our republic endures. That our republic is bigger than one person, bigger than Joe Biden, bigger than Donald Trump, and we're in this weird sort of push-pull between these two egomaniacs for all intents and purposes, that nobody wants as the next president.
Right.
And yet we'll get through it, whoever gets elected.
Yeah. And it may not be either of them.
Yeah, it might not.
And so that's a good pivot point to
Well, I haven't looked at your agenda, but I figured
number
that's
one.
where we were going.
Well, I mean, the debate, right? We had the first. So this is the first mano a mano.
That was a debate
last night.
Or just a shouting match.
Well, I mean, look, the one thing I will say is that, and Frank Luntz tweeted this out during the debate. He said Joe Biden wouldn't stand a chance against either of these two.
No, that is true. I mean, that was the one thing I was thinking about earlier was how great it is on the Republican side, at least, that we have this type of
We've got some
bench.
depth.
Yeah, we've got some depth, and we've got some thoughtful, actually, people who've done things
Right.
and have succeeded in whatever they've done.
And then there was also a tweet. Oh my gosh, I forgot who tweeted it, but it was fantastic. They said, "I realize why I am enjoying this debate so much more than the previous debates. Vivek is not there." And I agree.
Did Vivek have his own? He didn't have anything last
No,
night,
no
really.
counter programming. Trump had the counter programming with Fox News, and I didn't watch any of that, so I can't comment.
I've only heard sound bites of that. I wasn't able to watch that.
I mean, I'm sure he did. He did.
The sound bites I've heard were fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
look.
One thing I appreciated with the one soundbite that seems to be leading the news on the Daily Wire and the Federalist and everywhere else is this idea that once he becomes elected, it's going to be grudge match time.
Yeah.
And his soundbite on that, although I don't necessarily believe it, was I'm going to be too busy trying to rescue the country. And that is actually the right answer.
It's the right way to say it. I mean, hopefully that's true if he ends up getting elected.
Well, I think there's people within the party who would like a little grudge match.
Well, of course there are because he's conditioned them for such.
Yes.
Right. The big news right before the debate was that Chris Christie dropped out.
Yeah.
And
but he took some shots at
he did
at
so
Nikki.
with a hot mic. Not sure that was an accident. Just saying, it's a good way to kind of send the shot across the bow without actually saying it publicly, right?
Well, he was under a lot of pressure. National Review had a good lead article on this yesterday to drop out because of New Hampshire, and the fact that New Hampshire might be the one primary where if Nikki Haley can prevail or come close, there's some against Trump. There's some momentum going into South Carolina.
Right.
So, and that he was stealing that momentum. He had no chance of winning New Hampshire at this point. So, it's yet to be determined. Obviously, I think that some of the polling shows that the majority of Christie voters would go to Haley. Yeah.
And if you look at the
majority of like DeSantis voters would go to Trump.
Right. And so you have some, and DeSantis has not been polling well in New Hampshire lately. So, but you have Trump and Haley. I mean, Haley's within single digits. And then you throw some of the Christie vote on there, becomes a race potentially. But it all kind of depends. I mean, people forget that these things, the momentum can shift very quickly.
Yes.
One way or the other. And so one thing to consider, while Christie getting out is good for Nikki Haley, it's definitely not good for DeSantis. Because as you point out, DeSantis voters are Trump voters.
Yeah, they don't trust Nikki.
Yeah.
They think she's a squish.
And boy, the first hour of the debate last night was just them just shooting at each other. You know, liar, 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 liar.
Yeah.
And
isn't there a website? I'm not going to repeat it because I don't want to give it any. But Nikki Haley like 20 times mentioned like some DeSantis website that points out all his lies.
It did get old. Get old. I think she overplayed it. She could have said it a couple times. But So, I mean, DeSantis has a,
I go back
he's
to my
got a
other
lot to
point.
lose.
At least we are having a debate.
Yeah, exactly.
The other side is meeting in the White House, probably as we speak, with Hollywood directors and celebrities and Obama folks to try to figure out what to do with the ever ailing Joe Biden.
I was going to wait a second to get into this, but you brought it up, so let's just pivot there. You saw a Washington Post article recently about how Obama is very concerned, personally concerned,
Well,
went to meet with...
So is his wife,
Yeah,
apparently.
right.
Who stuck her toe in it last week.
So I believe... So I have said for months that the Democrats were going to remove Joe Biden as the nominee
At the convention.
And replace him with Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
We are now seeing
Those wheels turning.
the wheels turning.
Yeah.
We have Obama coming out and saying, "Oh, I've got concerns about the Biden campaign, and they need to do this and this and this." And the things that he's saying that they should do, they're not going to do. And he knows they're not going to do them. So now he has something to point to that says, "Hey, I told them they needed to do this, but they didn't do it."
Yeah.
They didn't listen to reason. They didn't listen to experience. They just don't have what it takes. And then Michelle was on the podcast
Never
a couple days ago.
underestimate. What's his quote? Never underestimate Joe Biden's ability to
Fuck
f it up.
things up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you had Michelle on a podcast a few days ago,
Very worried.
talking about how worried she was.
So worried for the country.
So then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's like, oh, well,
Like,
so,
well, that- if she
so if
wasn't
she's that
telegraphing-
worried, is she willing to step into the breach? Well, if she gets recruited to step into the breach, we need a savior. This, folks, is the beginning. It's the beginning of the end of Joe Biden.
Yeah, I think you're right. And there seems to be a growing consensus amongst that theory as well. I mean, and all the conservative
It is
talking point.
It is
media
becoming a more common theme. Ted Cruz is talking about
Well,
it.
he threw that out there a couple podcasts ago. That watch Michelle Obama, watch what she does, watch her statements for the next several months, and that the convention will be the place where she sweeps in with the golden parachute and rescues the party from itself. And that way, there's no criticism of pushing aside Kamala.
Right. Right. I mean, it is. I mean, look, I got to hand it to the Obamas. Whoo, smart people.
Oh yeah, but it's all about power.
Yeah.
That's why you live 2.5 miles from the White House.
Right.
Not going to give it up.
And then, and so the events of this last week with the Secretary of Defense only is a pile-on effect of an administration. First you have a campaign that isn't up to it. Obama weighs in.
Well, there is no campaign right now.
Well, there's a campaign. It's in Wilmington.
Well,
they're bringing reporters over there to say, "Oh, we don't like the way you're covering this. You should cover this." They had spreadsheets on like, "Oh, we don't like the way you're covering national security," or it's. I'm telling you, it's nuts. But I'll tell you what's more nuts is that we haven't had more of an outcry in the media about this Secretary of Defense issue. Secretary of Defense Austin goes, we now know, on December 22nd, went in for some type of prostate cancer surgery.
Yeah, which
It's
very serious.
routine.
Could be.
Goes home, has some kind of infection, goes back into the hospital ICU on January 1st, maybe even December 31st. I'm not totally clear on that. Does not tell anybody until the next day. Literally does not tell anybody. So on January 2nd, Deputy Secretary of Defense is on vacation in Puerto Rico.
Yes.
She's in the water, and a Marine comes and says, "Hey, you're in charge now. You need to go to a secure location." And she's like, "What? I was drinking her Mai Tai." What the heck? Not then, but 2 days later, the White House finds out.
Yeah.
And the National Security Advisor.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell is going on?
Well,
We literally had a 24-hour period where there was nobody engaged.
But it's because no one's in charge, and nobody respects Joe Biden enough to make sure that he knows what's happening.
Well,
that's
exactly right.
And also, this brings into an issue. I think the heart of the issue that we need to discuss as a country, and that is, why are we appointing generals to be Secretary of Defense?
That's a great question.
We've done this twice, and both times on the Trump side and on the Biden side, you get these gentlemen who have served their country, have a great deal of respect for their service, but they feel that they're above everyone.
That's
you
a great
you
point.
absolutely get that with Austin. You absolutely had that. Who was Trump's
Millie?
Mad Dog or what is
Mattis.
that? Mattis. You had that with Mattis, who feel that they're above. They're above the presidency. They're above the civilian class, and they can just. He can just go off and do what he wants to do.
And doesn't have to tell anybody.
And he doesn't have to report to his commander-in-chief that he's... First of all, he has this issue. Hopefully that Biden actually knew he had this issue.
He didn't.
He didn't.
He didn't.
Okay, so that's my point then. I didn't realize that he didn't know that he had prostate cancer.
Right. He didn't know that.
Okay, he didn't know
He actually didn't find that out until like the 6th or 7th.
Okay, that in and of itself, and that you
Because
have
remember,
some
the first
Democrats now
reporting-
calling for his resignation.
Yeah, the first reporting
Because-
was that he was going in for a elective surgery.
Oh, okay.
So speculation was whether it was a butt lift or
Yeah, so I've read around the edges on this, but I didn't realize that Biden actually didn't know that he had prostate cancer.
he didn't.
That is insubordination and dereliction, and he should be fired.
He should be fired.
And Biden won't do it.
No, he won't.
There's another article I read yesterday about that. He won't fire anyone.
No.
He won't fire anyone.
Well, because he's not totally aware. I mean, it's.
so he's got what is he? What's
I mean,
going on?
the and
it's
your
insane.
your point about military being ahead in the having a general as Secretary of Defense is, I mean, this is supposed to be a civilian post.
It absolutely is supposed to be a civilian post.
There should be a
and we've had
separation
two generals
between-
who have
yeah.
believed, for whatever reason, they are above the commander-in-chief, that they know more than the commander-in-chief, and they will defy the commander-in-chief, and you can't have that.
Yeah.
Whether you agree or not, you can't have that. If you disagree with what the commander-in-chief is telling you to do, then resign.
Right.
If you don't respect the commander-in-chief enough to tell him that you have prostate cancer, then resign.
Resign. Yeah. Absolutely.
Resign now.
Absolutely.
And
Great
then you're
point.
going in for surgery and leaving the country without leadership in the military, then resign.
Especially
when we've got
when we've got-
5-6 wars going
Yeah,
on,
we've got some real serious stuff going on.
it's unbelievable. You
I-
can't make it up.
I mean, what's
But
stunning?
it's because he's a military man. He's reached the pinnacle of the military. He feels that he is accountable to no one.
Yeah.
Except for himself, maybe, and so he has disrespect for the chain of command.
Yeah. That's a great point. Crazy. Speaking of crazy,
So
Capitol Hill is going crazy. So we had a hearing yesterday.
and I'm sure you're going to hear hearings on this on Lloyd Austin, but yesterday,
Yeah. There will be hearings about that for sure.
yeah, I think
in
he
the House.
resigns.
But yesterday, the oversight committee on the House side was having their discussion about whether they hold Hunter Biden in contempt of Congress for not coming in for a deposition, and he showed up to the hearing.
Well, he showed up with his sugar daddy and his lawyer, which is really bizarre.
I'll tell you,
You're showing up with the guy who paid your taxes and bought all your artwork,
right?
and,
it's-
probably paid off all your
It's
strippers
bold.
and
It's bold.
everybody else.
And what was genius about this move on Hunter's part, and I will give him credit for pulling a stunt.
it's great.
That
It's
that
great
was
theater.
Solid.
Yeah, it's great theater.
Is that he's like, I'm here, guys. I'm here. And for whatever reason, I don't quite understand why the Republicans don't just put him on the stand in public and ask him the questions and let him perjure himself on live TV. I mean, I don't understand why I think it must be that they want to get him in a deposition in private so that they can then use that against him in a public hearing. You know what? Stop the games. Let's just have the conversation.
I think
They should have called his bluff and said, "Okay, sit in the witness chair. We'll swear you in right now."
and that was suggested during the hearing, right, by Jamie Raskin.
Raskin, yeah.
Yeah, say let's put him under oath right now. Let's take a vote and put him under oath right now. Which Comer wasn't going to do that. You know,
Which is
I think
he should have done it.
I think he wants a contempt vote first. So and ultimately you get that contempt vote if he shows up. I mean, if he shows up on you know what people aren't really talking about is that he could be arrested.
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, but
the next time if they pass the vote, okay, if they vote on it, it goes through. The Justice Department refuses to do anything. Once he comes back to if he comes anywhere near Congress, they can order the Capitol Police to arrest him, throw him in the brig along with the Secret Service.
So here's why I think that's stupid. Because
I'm not saying that it's the right thing to do.
No, I know you're not. I'm saying you're pointing out what they're trying to set up, and I think they're playing it too cute by half.
Yeah.
Call his bluff, put him on the stand, put him under oath, and start asking questions, and then let the chips fall, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got him right there. I don't know why they didn't just say, okay, let's do it right now.
Well, and the other thing is, how did they not know that he would be there? I mean, you can't keep a secret in Washington.
Well,
somebody must have known he was showing up.
I don't know. It seemed to be a shock to everybody there.
I don't know.
I think that some of the Republicans really, I mean, Nancy Mace, you're the example of white privilege. I'm like, what? No.
Yeah, I didn't understand that.
Whatever. But I mean, it's the privilege of being the son of a top politician. That's the privilege. I mean,
and remember, it's not about Hunter Biden. It's about Joe Biden. It's about getting on the record as to Joe Biden's interactions with all of Hunter's
all his deals,
all the
moving of the goalpost about whether Joe Biden was involved in the business.
Yeah, and he was absolutely directly involved, completely.
And
there's no doubt
they should have
that.
just. I mean, I'm telling you, that was their opportunity. They may have blown it. Speaking of blowing it, they are now pissed at Speaker Johnson because Johnson has cut a deal with Chuck Schumer on the Senate side.
And again, it's three of our most esteemed friends and colleagues here in Arizona.
Well, among
who are voting with Democrats.
Chip Roy led the charge, so they shut down the House. They voted against some procedural motions on the Republican side because they're mad about the spending level.
Let me ask you this. I mean, you're much more tied in with this because you have friends, embedded, I would imagine. Like, what is their goal? What do they think they can achieve?
At this point, I am at a loss at what they think they can achieve because
is Chip Roy going to actually call for a vote against Speaker Johnson?
I think he might.
I mean, that's insane.
But keep in mind, Chip Roy was defending Kevin McCarthy. Yeah. So it may be that this is, okay, guys, you played the game against my guy McCarthy. I'm going to play the game against your guy Johnson.
Yeah, but Johnson is so much cleaner than McCarthy, period.
Well, I mean...
And so much a better choice. I mean, we were lucky. My opinion, we're lucky to have him at this point. And someone who can just steer the ship. But what do they expect to get?
I don't know what they expect to get because...
Senate.
They still have a Senate that's controlled by Democrats and a Democrat president.
Yeah, what do you expect to get?
I mean, and they will... I guarantee you they will... The Democrats will let the government shut down because they know the Republicans will take the blame.
Yeah, completely. I don't know what they hope to achieve.
I am mystified. And
we should get Andy Biggs on the show to explain this to us, since he's been part of both gangs.
Yeah. Well, and to Andy's credit, he might be the only one. He's definitely one of a very small number if there's any more than one, but he's voted against every budget.
Yeah, he's been.
He even voted against the Trump budgets.
Yeah.
So he's the one guy who's been consistent that says, I'm just not going to.
We must do something.
Yeah, I'm not going to vote for any of this stuff.
And he's willing to shut the government down and take all the blame.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely said that. He goes, if it's a way of getting to where we need to go, then
it's the guys who voted for all the Trump spending who now are screaming bloody murder
Yeah.
on the Biden spending that I find distasteful because it's like, that's not consistent, man.
Yeah. Well, and then you have a lot of people who are in very safe seats, and they can afford to throw as many stones as they want to throw.
Well, and in some ways, they feel like they have to throw the stones because if they don't, they're going to get primaried by somebody who will throw the stones.
Yeah.
It's a pretty screwed up operation right now. I'd say House Republicans are not doing themselves any favors.
No, I mean, they're in jeopardy of losing their majority or expanding their majority, and that should be their number one priority.
Yeah, I mean, they need to expand
They need
the
to
majority
show they can govern.
because
and
because they've got the George Santos seat is coming up for
Yep.
an election and very well could lose that. They'll win the McCarthy seat that's coming up, but that's not until I think the initial election. The primary is March, the runoff is in May, so it's going to be a while before that one's filled, unless somebody gets 50+1 in the March election. So they're at he's at a two vote margin right now. That's basically no room for error.
Exactly, and that's why this whole exercise just seems ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 votes. You got 2 votes. When you have 30 votes or 40, then you can play this game.
You can have the fights and you can talk about.
You
that
can
stuff
play this game all day long, but you can't right now.
Yeah,
you can't. And tactically
Well,
and strategically, it's a
if you had
mistake.
40 votes and a Republican Senate, you could actually do some stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's very frustrating.
I mean, I'll make a prediction, and I don't like we've been wrong about most things, but I think we lose the House by a smudge, but I think we gain the Senate by a smudge.
Yeah,
and then it's.
I think that's
and the
pretty
presidency
good.
is anyone's guess.
I think that's a pretty good guess. I do think we win the Senate. I think that
I think Ohio,
and West Virginia.
I think Montana,
maybe Montana.
Yeah, West Virginia for sure. I mean, that's a gimme.
Well,
and then what?
If it's West Virginia, that makes it 50-50. So then just West Virginia would be enough if the Republicans prevail in the presidential election.
Yeah.
So.
And that's anyone's guess.
Well,
depending if Trump stays out of jail.
I think he might win if he's in jail.
You've said that.
Might win if he's in jail. I really do think
you've said that. I think that's hilarious.
I really do think that if the Democrats don't replace Biden, then Trump will win. If the Democrats do replace Biden, then I think we're done. Because I don't see anybody beating Michelle Obama.
Yeah, no, there's too much nostalgia for the favored one.
Yes.
Yeah, you're gonna see O's everywhere.
Oh,
M-O.
The big Mo.
The big Mo. It's gonna be everywhere. The big Mo.
Well, speaking of Big Mo, you wanted to touch on college football today.
Well. Some things have happened, and
What's
we
happened, Chris?
haven't talked about college football at all. But,
Was there a championship game?
There was a championship game, and it looked like Washington didn't get any sleep the night before or what
Something
have you.
happened. Who was favored?
So Michigan was favored.
Oh, they were. Okay.
But I always thought Washington, because of their quarterback, Michael Penix Jr., had a chance. He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
So he
off. Missed everyone, and the running back had a broken foot or whatever, and it was the third quarter. It looked like nobody wanted to win, and Washington had every chance to win that game, and then Penix threw another interception, and it was over. So congratulations to the University of Michigan Wolverines and Jim Harbaugh.
Hard for you to say.
Well, I mean, it is because my dad went to the University of Washington. He was a linebacker for the Washington football team. I grew up not going to any Washington games. He never took me up there, but really respecting, liking the University of Washington. And one that's first Rose Bowls. The first Rose Bowl I've ever went to was the University of Washington against Michigan. And Washington lost 26, I think, to 6. And it was Bo Schlembeckler, I don't say that right, and Don James in a two classic coaches, and I have never seen my dad so upset. Now turn that around, and the 1992 Rose Bowl again, Washington and Michigan, with Steve Ettman playing for Washington. It was just a beast, and they just destroyed Michigan. And I've never seen my dad so happy. And what's great about that is that several years later he passed away, and it was such a great memory for me being with him during that.
To have a win.
You're 10, 11 years old. You're not really quite sure what's going on, but to see your dad so upset and so viscerally upset, and then to watch him just be so happy, and he knew that administration, he knew Don James, and so we got to do a little bit of that. And I understood it more at 22 or 21 than I did when I was 11. And so I was rooting for Washington, and I was surprised how poorly they played. I mean, it looked like Penix was on drugs, or he just looked completely out of it. But then the big story, which has hit the last couple of days, is 3 Hall of Fame epic coaches are leaving the profession. You've got Pete Carroll calling it quits at the Seattle Seahawks.
Now, did he leave or did he get fired?
No, he's leaving,
Okay.
but he is also part of the ownership, general manager, so he's going to still be there. Nick Saban leaving Alabama. That sent shockwaves.
Yeah.
People always kind of wondered whether the current state of college football with the transfer portal and name, image, likeness, NIL money going to players, would that puts Alabama at a disadvantage going forward. It completely does. And he was openly critical of all that, rightfully so. It needs to be fixed, and that's a whole nother podcast. But that whole system needs to be fixed, and Alabama could not guarantee to get all the number 1 players anymore to come there, or to really commit for long term, which is what they need in Tuscaloosa. If you're going to make a kid go to Tuscaloosa, there needs to be more than just Nick Saban.
Yeah.
And Jim Harbaugh might be going to the NFL. No word on that. And then Bill Belichick, which is the most ridiculous thing out of all of it. Nick Saban retiring, he's going to be fine. Pete Carroll, his legend is complete. But Bill Belichick had a couple bad years, and he was basically forced out. Which makes zero, at least that's what's being reported, and it makes no sense.
Well,
like who are you going to get?
Well, that's a good question, but I will say,
and people have their opinions of Belichick. I'm not the biggest fan, but he is maybe the best NFL coach ever.
Well, maybe, but if my wife was showing me stats, and I have no idea where she's not a huge NFL fan, so I was kind of shocked. But this morning, so it's good timing that you brought this up, Alyssa shows me some stats that say the 11 seasons of Belichick without Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Big losing seasons. I mean, he was 43-47 at home. It was like a huge loss.
Since Tom Brady went to Tampa, won a Super Bowl there.
Yeah.
And it still was competitive until he retired. Tom Brady and Ron Gronkowski were the GOATs for him. And Teddy Bruschi. He had some great legendary players that got it done for him.
Yeah. And it just goes to show that it's you can have great coaches, you can have great players, and sometimes the great players make coaches look great, and sometimes great coaches make players look great.
But he also established, to his credit, a system. And that system was very much bent on a lot of hard work, a lot of hard training, and he didn't coddle anyone. And there was so if you're a superstar, like a Randy Moss and you wanted to go to New England, you weren't coddled. You were expected.
You were part of the team. It was a team effort.
Yeah, and that was Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. That's what they expected. And if you didn't do the work like they did the work, one thing you have to say about Tom Brady, he was the hardest working guy in football.
Yeah.
Just like Jerry Rice during his time, he was the hardest working guy in football for the longest time. And that type of preparation, if you didn't invest in that, you're done.
Well,
they would get rid of you.
Yeah, in Brady's case, he's got some natural talent, but he's not the most athletic guy in the world.
No.
So he worked at it, and he proved that you can be not the best athlete in the world, and you can be the best quarterback in the world.
Well, and
which is very impressive.
I think you can put Tom Brady and Joe Montana in the same sense, and for one primary reason. And to your point, which I think is a great one, not the best athletes, but the smartest guys on the field.
Yeah.
So smart. Like, could walk up to the line and be like, all right, yeah, I know exactly. They know what the defense is doing before the defense knows what they're doing. And they just were so smart. And so they knew how to protect themselves, and they knew where the play was going to go. And they had a calming influence on the other players around them, which created confidence.
Yeah.
And that's how they won. You know, I mean, one of my favorite quotes about Joe Montana is when they beat the Bengals, like in the last 2 minutes of the Super Bowl. And I don't know if he was talking to John Taylor or somebody, but they got to the huddle, and maybe it was one of the offensive linemen, and everybody's just amped up, and he turns to the guy and goes, "Hey, isn't that John Candy over there in the stands? Isn't that John Candy?" And it was just his way of saying, "I got this."
Yeah.
Everybody calm down. And that was his brilliance. And Brady and Gronk and all those guys, it was the chemistry that they had.
Yeah.
And then once that left, magic kind of left. But I don't know what Belichick's going to do. I mean, I would at least keep him part of the organization.
I don't know.
But he hasn't had a quarterback.
No.
And everything's been kind of bust.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what Robert Kraft decides.
I was surprised how it all came down and how he's kind of forced out. I wasn't surprised about Nick Saban. That seemed to be coming because of the NIL and the transfer portal and all this stuff.
That makes sense. So I did see somebody made a comment that Nick Saban setting the example of when it's time to go out.
Yeah.
72 years old, still doing great.
Oh, he's going to be in the broadcast booth. He's going to be great.
I mean, should some politicians follow that lead?
You would think. You would think. And Pete Carroll. Listen, I was there for the whole run of Pete Carroll at University of Southern California, and it was glorious. It was amazing. We had the best time, and he's one of the very few coaches that have won both a national championship in college football and a Super Bowl.
A Super Bowl, yeah.
So got to give him credit.
Yeah.
And he's going to stay part of the organization, which is great.
Yeah.
He broke up talking about his family. He's the nicest guy you'll ever meet. I mean, my uncle, who is his name is Doug Krikourian, he's a sports writer in Southern California, one of the deans of the sports writers there, and he would take me to. Pete Carroll used to have a Tuesday press conference or a Tuesday lunch, and I got to go every once in a while. I would fly out, and he'd say, "You want to go to the lunch?" I'm like, "Yeah," and I'd fly out. And my uncle was like one of the only guys that would ask like real questions. The rest of them would, little softballs.
Yeah.
And my uncle would throw a zinger in there, which is probably where I get it because being around him my whole life. And then Pete was like, he signed a couple footballs. He was just the nicest guy. And he is the nicest guy.
Yeah.
Cool. And USC misses him because now we don't have a really nice guy.
Yeah. That's a good point. Well, wow.
Did you want to talk about the Golden Globes and the lack of Ricky Gervais?
Gervais,
we're in Los Angeles, right?
The host was terrible. So two observations. One, this host, who I can't even remember his name.
I never saw him before. It was on the other night. I'm like, why are we watching this?
Stupid joke that he attempt at a joke about Taylor Swift, saying, "Oh, the difference between this and the NFL is, there's going to be fewer cutaways to Taylor Swift at this than at the NFL." But then it was wrong because they ended up cutting away to Taylor Swift like 20 times.
Oh, I'm sure.
So more than a Kansas City Chiefs game.
There was something about her stare against him, and it pretty much ruined his career.
Maybe. Look, she's a juggernaut. To go against Taylor Swift is to.
She should laugh at that, though. It wasn't that funny, but it wasn't.
Well, it wasn't funny at all. But it's like so
harmless.
What? Yeah, it doesn't affect her. The big thing for me, was, and I'm gonna get the name wrong because I think it's, is it Kieran Culkin? Is that how you say it?
Kieran
Culkin winning for Succession was all I cared about.
Kieran Culkin, that's Macaulay Culkin's
Brother. Yeah.
Yeah.
He, played Roman in Succession. You haven't watched it?
I have not watched Succession.
Oh my gosh.
I've heard a lot about it, but and a lot of people told me I should watch it.
Yes, you should.
Because of my own history.
You should. Absolutely. Yes, you should.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about that.
Oh no, I've had people call me up and say you should watch this.
You should watch this.
You've lived some of this. I'm like,
absolutely.
Oh, okay.
He is a phenomenal actor. He just kills it in this TV show, and
because it's essentially about the Murdochs, right?
Well,
it's kind of a play off the
Murdochs. Yeah. But better. Better than life. Better than real life. Yeah, better than real life. It's some great writing. But he just pulls it off just beautifully. And so I was super happy to see that he got the award on Best Actor.
Yeah, I didn't watch. It was on in the kitchen.
Oh, I didn't watch either.
And
I just saw that he got an award.
And the guy was listen, after Ricky Gervais in 2020 went out with a bang.
Yep.
There's no reason to watch anymore.
No, because he called them all out. He told them what it was.
I still will go on YouTube and just watch that every once in a while.
Yeah, opening monologue.
Just
take your little award.
Thank your God.
Get the hell off the stage.
Get the hell off
Nobody
the
cares about what you think.
Nobody cares what you think.
Well,
about anything, which is like...
It does make you wonder why anyone cares what we think.
Yeah, it does. But some people do, and there's a lot of people who do, and we want to thank you.
We appreciate it.
We
appreciate you
open the
listening.
show with that, and we, do us a solid, so to speak.
Yeah.
Follow us. Your 5 stars.
5-star us. Say hello to us. Send us an email.
That helps promote the show.
Whatever you want to do.
And we've got a big year ahead. It's election time. It is in full swing, and we're gonna have some great guests.
It's gonna be some fun.
And maybe even be doing some remotes.
Yes.
And some live broadcasts.
Yeah.
We got a lot to
look forward to.
Yeah.
Big year coming up.
And who would have thought it'll be 3 years in March.
That's amazing.
That 3 years ago when we started this in the basement of Grand Canyon University, otherwise known as Canyon Adventures, which is growing by leaps and bounds now, that here we be.
Yeah.
With Dave Pratt.
That's right.
Star Worldwide Networks. And Rockin' Robin.
The place to be. The place to be.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
God bless.